The nail that sticks out doesn't always get hammered down. Sometimes it builds a whole new house. Welcome back, Ascenders. You're not here because you fit in. You're here because something in you, quiet, sharp, maybe even uncomfortable, knows you're not like the others. You think in sideways spirals, not straight lines. You don't echo what's trending. You question why it's even trending in the first place. And maybe, just maybe, that's not just personality. It's neurology. In this episode, we're going full signal, no fluff, no filters, as we break down 12 reasons Sigma males operate on a neurodivergent frequency. This isn't about pathology, this is about power. It's about why your silent intensity, deep logic, and relentless independence aren't just quirks. They're indicators that you're coded for something the mainstream mind can't compute. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the way you think, act, and even isolate is actually a higher order feature, not a malfunction. So if you're ready to understand yourself without apology and lean into the power of being mentally misaligned with the masses, then hit that subscribe button and join the Ascenders. This is your decoding zone. 1. Echo-free processing. Most people process the world by reflecting what they've heard, opinions passed around like hand-me-down clothes. Sigma males, they run on internal servers. They absorb, yes, but they don't echo. Their minds aren't wired for social approval, they're wired for clarity. This makes conversations different. While others are rehearsing agreement, the Sigma brain is busy assessing, does this make sense? Is this true? Do I even care? That kind of independence, raw, analytical, and often uncomfortable, is a hallmark of neurodivergent processing. It doesn't mean they don't care about others. It means they don't need the nod of the crowd to validate their ideas. It's a signal of internal validation mechanisms, systems found in many divergent cognitive profiles, such as high-functioning autism or atypical ADHD. This echo-free thinking can also feel isolating. In rooms full of loud repetition, Sigmas go quiet. Not because they're shy, because nothing said is worth mirroring. They prefer mental integrity over group approval. This trait often gets mistaken for arrogance. But it's not ego, it's architecture. A brain that prioritizes precision over popularity. A mind that prefers silence to meaningless repetition. Neurodivergent minds often reject the prepackaged. They don't run on culture's default OS. They build their own. Sigmas are not mimics, they are architects. And that starts with rejecting the echo. Second pattern, addiction. Most people see dots. Sigmas connect them compulsively. They can't help it. Their brains are wired for pattern recognition at a level that borders on obsession. That might mean recognizing behavioral loops in people, flaws in systems, or inconsistencies in ideology. This isn't just observation, it's neurological hunger. The Sigma brain gets itchy when things don't make sense. They can't ignore it. They dig, correlate, analyze. While others move on, Sigmas are mentally spelunking into the cave of why, neurodivergent traits, especially those seen in autism and gifted ADHD profiles, often include intense pattern tracking, but where others may use that to solve puzzles, Sigmas turn it into a worldview. They see power structures not just as rules, but as vulnerable blueprints. They spot cultural hypocrisy not as a detail, but a weakness. This addiction to structure is also why Sigmas often burn out socially. Conversations that loop or contradict themselves short-circuit their tolerance. They don't get bored. They get overstimulated by redundancy. Their brains crave systems that evolve, not loops that repeat. Pattern addiction gives Sigmas strategic insight. They anticipate moves before they're made. They feel shifts in tone, power, energy. But it also means they struggle to let things go. When everyone else shrugs at a broken idea, the Sigma brain keeps trying to rebuild it or dismantle it. It's not a choice, it's wiring. Pattern is the Sigma's native language. Third, No default mode society teaches a script. Smile here, nod there, say good job even when you don't mean it. Most people download this social software without question. Sigmas. They skipped that update. They don't have a default mode. Every social move is conscious, calculated, often exhausting. It's not that they're antisocial. They're not pre-programmed. Their social interactions are manual, not automatic. This is deeply familiar to many neurodivergent profiles, especially those with social processing differences. This lack of automatic behavior often leads to social friction. Sigmas don't play nice. They play real. If they say something kind, they mean it. If they're quiet, it's not passive aggression. It's probably analysis. They don't default to flattery. They default to authenticity. Without a default mode, socializing becomes more complex. Sigmas aren't reading the room. They're decoding it. They're asking, what's the purpose of this exchange? What is this person actually saying? Do I need to respond? Or is silence the right play? This intentionality is often read as cold, but it's not detachment, it's depth. Neurodivergent thinkers frequently show this trait, not instinctively responding, but consciously navigating. That takes energy. It's why Sigma males often prefer solitude, not because they hate people, but because they need to recover from overthinking every line of dialogue. A Sigma in a crowd is like a programmer reading broken code. It's frustrating, slow, and requires patches. They're not unsocial, they're unautomated. 4. Low bandwidth tolerance. Let's be blunt. Small talk fries the Sigma brain. How's the weather? Did you see the game? These aren't warm-ups, they're static. Sigmas crave high bandwidth communication. Real ideas, real insights, real friction. This low tolerance for shallow chatter is often mistaken for rudeness. But what's really happening is bandwidth collapse. Their minds, already operating with high-resolution focus, can't process fluff. It's like feeding junk code into a custom-built AI. It breaks rhythm. Neurodivergent individuals, particularly those on the autism spectrum, often display similar reactions to surface-level socialization. It's not that it's beneath them, it's that it's mentally expensive and emotionally unrewarding. Sigmas would rather sit in silence than make meaningless noise. They're not antisocial, they're allergic to frictionless interaction. Give them a topic that matters and they light up. Philosophy, systems, paradoxes, strategies, that's their arena. But talk to them about TV shows or office gossip and they will mentally clock out in 10 seconds. This low bandwidth tolerance shapes everything: who they date, who they work with, what content they consume. It's a filter, not a flaw. And the more you push them into idle talk, the more withdrawn they become. It's not resistance, it's protection of mental resources and authenticity. Their time is currency, and shallow talk is a scam. 5. Systemic intuition. Sigma males don't read people, they read systems. Where most folks are scanning faces for smiles or frowns, Sigmas are scanning for structure, social hierarchies, power flows, behavioral patterns. This is their data. Emotional micro-expressions, not so much. This isn't a social weakness, it's a different form of strength. While most people tune into the emotional what, Sigmas want to know the mechanical how. How does this environment function? What's the unspoken rule book? Who's truly in control, not by title but by influence? This level of systemic intuition is a clear sign of neurodivergent thinking. It mirrors traits found in those who are naturally wired to think in architecture, not anecdotes. Engineers of thought, strategists of social design. They're not missing the moment, they're rewiring it from the inside. A Sigma male can walk into a boardroom and instantly map the real power structure, regardless of who's sitting where. He can enter a conversation and feel the flow of control shift without a single word being said. It's less about empathy, more about internal modeling. That modeling can make him seem cold or calculated. But in truth, he's simply not distracted by surface signals. While the world performs, he's reverse engineering the stage. This trait also explains why Sigmas rarely fall for groupthink. They see how belief systems are constructed, where the cracks lie, and what incentives keep them in place. They don't just spot manipulation, they trace its algorithm. It's not emotional blindness. It's strategic seeing. Sigmas aren't looking at you, they're looking through the system that built you. 6. Disruption reflex. Some people avoid conflict, some chase it. Sigma males, they disrupt it, instinctively, not for drama, not for dominance, but because flawed systems physically irritate their minds. When something doesn't make sense, a broken process, a hypocritical rule, a lazy tradition, the Sigma brain doesn't just notice, it reacts. Neurodivergent wiring, especially in ADHD or oppositional profiles, often carries this same reflex. An inability to sit still in the presence of nonsense. Sigmas don't argue because they want to win. They argue because silence feels like betrayal of logic, of clarity, of their own mental integrity. To them, complicity is corrosion. That's why they're often branded as difficult. They challenge managers, question teachers, ignore trends. It's not rebellion. It's their mental immune system kicking in. Irrationality is a virus, and they're the fever. This disruption reflex makes them innovators, entrepreneurs, iconoclasts, but it also makes them unpopular in rigid systems. They don't play along, they pull apart. Their neurodivergence shows in their discomfort with routine obedience. They need why, not just what. And if your answer is, because that's how it's always been done, prepare for intellectual war. But here's the key. Sigma disruption isn't chaotic. It's surgical. They don't want attention. They want alignment. If something's broken, they'll fix it, or burn it down so something better can rise. They're not rebels without cause. They're engineers with zero tolerance for dysfunction. So if a Sigma male seems disruptive, ask yourself this: what's broken that he can't ignore? 7. Parallel processing engines. Most people think in a line. One thought leads to another, like train cars on a track. Sigmas, they think like spider webs, multiple threads stretching in every direction, all at once. This parallel processing isn't multitasking, it's layered cognition. While you're making a decision, a Sigma is running 3 simulations, 2 risk assessments, and 1 existential audit, silently. This mental architecture mirrors certain neurodivergent patterns, especially in highly gifted or ADHD-coded minds. It creates intensity, speed, and often overload. The Sigma brain doesn't let things go. It files them in background tabs, always analyzing, always revisiting. It's why they may seem distracted, but suddenly deliver hyper-accurate insight seemingly out of nowhere. Their mind never dropped the problem. It just kept solving in stealth mode. This trait can be both gift and curse. Sigmas are incredible at anticipating outcomes, identifying leverage points, and finding unseen solutions. But it also leads to burnout. Their brains don't rest, they orbit. And too many open tabs. That crashes the system. In conversation, they can seem zoned out. In meetings, they may be the quiet one. But internally, they're building flowcharts, asking meta-questions, reframing the problem before it's even been fully named. This kind of brain runs hot. It needs solitude to cool. It needs purpose to stay functional. Without it, the parallel processes turn against them. Anxiety, indecision, overthinking. But in the right context, this is elite hardware. Sigmas don't overthink. They out-process. 8. Silent logic. Talk is cheap. For Sigma males, it's often unnecessary. They don't need to vocalize every idea because their internal logic is self-validating. If it makes sense to them, that's enough. That's silence. It's not hesitation, it's certainty. While extroverted thinkers speak to figure things out, Sigmas go inward. They construct mental blueprints before sharing anything. If they do speak, it's because the idea has passed through rigorous internal audit. If they don't, the thought is likely still building. This silent logic reflects a common neurodivergent mode, internal processing dominance. It shows up in introverts, analytical types, and autistic thinkers, people whose minds conclude before they express. To outsiders, this can look like detachment, but to Sigmas, unnecessary expression is waste. Why say it if it adds no value? Why speak if silence is more aligned? This doesn't mean they lack emotion or opinion, quite the opposite. Their inner world is dense, active, layered, but it's not on display unless there's a reason to reveal it. That frustrates many people, especially in relationships or teams. But it's not about secrecy, it's about intellectual economy. Sigmas treat communication like currency, only spend when the return is worth it. Their logic system also means they don't need consensus. Once they've mapped a conclusion, they'll act, even if no one else agrees. This independence of mind is rare, it's misunderstood, and it's often lonely. But in that silence is strategy, in that restraint is power. Sigmas don't need to be heard to know they're right. They've already tested it. Inside. 9. Hyper-focus gatekeeping. When a Sigma male locks onto something, the world shrinks. Hunger, fatigue, even time itself become irrelevant. What's left is total mental immersion, the kind of focus most people can't even simulate. But for a Sigma, it's not rare, it's how they're wired. This hyperfocus isn't a productivity hack, it's a biological override. Neurodivergent brains, especially those in ADHD or Asperger's spectrums, often have difficulty regulating attention. But the twist is, once locked in, that same brain becomes a laser. Sigmas use this to their advantage. When passion meets precision, they enter a state of flow that's nearly unbreakable. They'll dive so deep into a topic, skill, or idea that outsiders might assume they're obsessed, and they'd be right. But it's not obsession for obsession's sake. It's exploration without interruption. This trait makes Sigmas dangerous in the best way. They can outlearn, outthink, and outlast competitors in any space they care about. But it also makes them selective gatekeepers. If a task doesn't trigger their internal ignition, it gets ignored completely. They don't fake interest. They either lock in or they vanish. This is why they often struggle with formal education, routine jobs, or small responsibilities. Those systems weren't built for intensity, they were built for conformity. And the Sigma doesn't just resist conformity, he rejects it on a neural level. Give him a mission though, a real one. He becomes unstoppable. Sigmas don't just focus, they fuse with the target. 10. Mirror-neutral wiring. Most people have invisible mirrors in their brains, emotional reflection systems that auto-sync with others. Sigmas, their mirror is turned down to low volume. Not broken, just calibrated differently. This mirror-neutral state means they often miss emotional subtext, sarcasm, hints, passive aggression. They're not insensitive, they're just not running the default empath software. They prefer directness over emotional guesswork. This is a trait heavily observed in neurodivergent profiles, especially in the autistic spectrum. There's no malice, just mismatch. The world says one thing, means another, and expects you to decode both simultaneously. Sigma wiring short circuits at that level of contradiction. Instead, they crave explicit clarity. Say what you mean what you say. No layers, no masks. This leads to social misunderstandings. People think they're cold, distant, or even rude, but the truth is, they're honest processors. They don't intuit vibes, they assess patterns. They might not read your sadness in your eyes, but if you tell them, they'll respond with intensity. Their empathy isn't missing, it's just manual, not automatic. That difference matters. It means relationships with Sigmas require conscious communication, but in return, You get brutal honesty, radical loyalty, and zero manipulation. This isn't emotional detachment, it's emotional decryption, and they prefer clean code. 11. Noise aversion, clarity addiction. For the Sigma brain, the world is loud, not just in volume but in signal, crowds, bright lights, constant interruptions. They're not just annoying, they're debilitating. This noise aversion is classic among neurodivergent minds. Sensory input is heightened, but not in a dramatic way. It's more like running software with too many pop-ups. Eventually, the system stalls. Sigmas crave clarity, minimalism, sharp edges, focused environments. That's why they're drawn to solitude, nature, and spaces where the signal is pure. They don't recharge through noise, they detox from it. Their homes often reflect this. Minimal colors, organized chaos, controlled lighting. It's not aesthetic, it's survival. Every element in their environment either feeds focus or bleeds it. This also applies to verbal noise. Meetings full of fluff drain them. Social events with no purpose burn them out. Their mind scans constantly for utility, and when it finds none, it powers down. But when placed in high-clarity zones, a deep conversation, a solo project, a structured mission, they ignite. Their processing becomes fluid. Their vision gets sharper. Their entire being tightens into purpose. Noise doesn't just distract Sigmas, it threatens them. But clarity, that's their drug. And in a world addicted to noise, clarity is rebellion. 12th, identity. Fluidity. Labels are like static to Sigma males. You're this kind of person. You belong to that group. None of it fits, because Sigmas are shapeshifters of the psyche. This fluidity is often misunderstood as indecision or vagueness, but in reality, it's adaptive resistance. Sigmas don't want to be defined, boxed in, or reduced. Their identity is modular. They upgrade it constantly, piece by piece, based on input, experience, and inner logic. This mirrors a trait seen in many neurodivergent thinkers, a deep resistance to being typed. They don't want to be the smart one, the quiet one, or the rebel. They want to be free. This creates discomfort in others. People want predictable characters, but Sigmas aren't actors in someone else's story. They're rewriting the script as they go. This shape-shifting isn't manipulation, it's survival. In systems that punish difference, the Sigma male learns early to move like vapor, never too rigid, never too exposed. He adapts, not to blend, but to operate. It also means he's self-taught. Every belief, skill, and worldview has been earned, not inherited. He doesn't inherit dogma, he questions, breaks, and rebuilds it, constantly. This is the paradox of the Sigma, fiercely independent yet ever-evolving. Rooted in values, fluid in identity, he is not a fixed type, he is a living system. So, Ascenders, if these 12 truths felt more like recognitions than revelations, you're not just watching this video, you're being decoded. You're not glitched, you're custom-built. Your intensity, your distance, your obsession, it's all part of a design that doesn't bend to convention. In a world of loud conformity, your quiet divergence is power, the same brain that made you feel out of sync. It's the very engine that sets you 10 steps ahead. Don't dull it to fit in, don't soften it to be liked. Lean into it, build with it, ascend through it. If you found clarity in these words, subscribe to Sigma Ascends. This is your space, your code, your frequency. Until next time, stay sharp, stay strange, and above all, keep ascending.